Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Kelly, Amazon best-selling author, founder of Pink Tent, and transformational coach for women. So I am so excited to have you all here this evening. And we are following up from an amazing broadcast that we had last Thursday, so 1 week ago. I was able to have this amazing conversation with someone who has influenced me for so long, Dr. Christiane Northrup. And going back and listening to the interview today, I spent some time with it, and also getting the feedback from the women in the community. I mean, I had one woman call me immediately after or she emailed me right after the interview and said, wow, I was so impressed with all the things Dr. Northrup had to share. It was just so juicy. I want to take you out to lunch. I had another woman in our community share that she decided that she wasn't able to catch it live. So what she did is went and invited a friend to come over and get a bottle of wine and watch it on, I think it was a snowy evening, and really enjoyed it. And she said she had to stop it so many different times and engage in the conversation that they just ended up having a wonderful evening talking about some really juicy topics like being a goddess. And so what I want to do tonight is just go through some of the highlights and also just slow it down a bit. I mean, she had so much to share. So I want to kind of interject some things that I've learned over the years in really taking your power back. And if you have had a chance to watch the interview, then you'll really appreciate some of the insight that I have that I've used in my practice and things like that. So first things first is I asked her, how do we take personal responsibility for our health, for our sexuality, for our sexual health? And she went down this beautiful road, this beautiful tapestry of where we've been historically as women. And we've been really trained by society to not be in our power. It's been very much a patriarchal society, and our history has been written by men. So she talked actually towards the end of the interview about how time is moving so fast now. And she talked about kind of glacier time that's nice and slow. And so we look at women taking their power, and it's taken a really long time, but time is speeding up and it's speeding up and it's speeding up. And she spoke about how, it wasn't very long ago that, we didn't have the right to vote. And, especially in first world countries, as women, we have so many choices. And if you're living in other places in the world, you don't have these choices. You can't speak up. You don't have power. In fact, some countries, if you are born, if you are a family and you give birth to a little girl, little girls are left to die. Because they want a man or a baby boy to carry on the traditions. So we really, when we look at history as a whole, there's been an evolution, and I think it's been a very slow evolution of women, learning to find their power and to be in their power. And then that next stage, in my opinion, is really being able to speak about it, to be not shameful of our power. And so our sexuality is one of our greatest strengths. It's our power. It's, when we look at in terms of the chakras, and for some people, this might be a new word, but luckily we're starting to hear more and more about things like chakras. These are energy centers in the body. Luckily, yoga is really taken off in the Western world. And the chakras, we have 7 basic chakras. They start at the base of the spine. That's the first chakra. And that's the foundation of our survival, our very survival mechanisms. And then the next chakra up is kind of in our sexual organs in the second chakra. And this has to do with, the second chakra has to do with money, sex, and power. Money, sex, and power. And most women walking around today are disconnected from their second chakra. They've been disempowered. They've been shamed. We look at our Me Too society, where women are actually finally starting to speak up and give a voice to what has happened to them. And so, in my opinion, that's the first step, is speaking up and talking about it, talking about sex and sexuality in a really healthy way, which is why I wanted to continue this conversation tonight. So what is sexuality? Sexuality really, it's a creative life force. It's our, what's called Shakti, okay? It's our power. And it actually gives us the power to create, to birth life. It's the most blessed power. And, you know, and so it's time that we really do take our power back and we engage in conversation, and not just engage in conversation, but learn to love ourselves. I think that, you know, one of the things Dr. Northrup talked about is, it was about, I actually, when I reviewed the video, I took the time and, you know, what she was talking about at that point. So around 18 minutes into the interview, she brought up, so if you want to review it, she brought up the Mind Body Code, which was a book written by Mario Martinez. And I've not read the book, but one of the things that really stood out is she said that in all tribal cultures, that universally, one of the ways that they wound their members and to keep them under control, they do it through three things. These three things are shame, betrayal, and abandonment. Shame, betrayal, and abandonment. And I'll tell you, pretty much everyone on the planet has something that they're shameful of, or a condition that they have. As women, you know, what often brings up shame is body image, or, you know, certain diagnoses like breast cancer. In fact, there was a day Dr. Northrup talked about where women didn't talk about breast cancer. Women didn't talk about miscarriages. Women didn't talk about, you know, hysterectomies. I mean, it's time that we do take this power back. So going back to this idea of tribal cultures, the way that they would keep their members under control would be shame, betrayal, and abandonment. And think about it. A lot of these things we do to ourselves because we're so, you know, for example, I've created a whole community called Pink Tent, and it's devoted to women supporting women with herpes. And the reason I've done that is because there's so much shame around herpes, but it doesn't matter if we're talking about herpes or HPV or maybe divorce, maybe a gambling problem. You know, there's so many things that in the psyche, we think that we're unworthy of love. And so here we shame ourselves. We begin to shame our body and actually disassociate with it. And often we don't even have a healthy connection with our sexuality to begin with. We betray ourselves. So often we're so fearful of betrayal and abandonment of another. And yet there is such fear that we shame our bodies, we shame our behaviors, we betray ourselves, and in many ways we abandon ourselves. So we create these self-sabotaging behaviors. So I really want you to start to pay attention to what are you shameful of? You know, there's always something that women will say that they're shameful of. If you really start to dig, have these conversations, because here's the trick, ladies, is that if we keep it in the darkness and we don't talk about it, it becomes our shadow. And it's in the shadow that we lose all of our power. Not only do we lose all of our power, we become shackled to this tiny jail cell, so to speak, that we create for ourselves. And so I think the first step in self-love and reclaiming your power and reclaiming your sexual health is to practice forgiveness of yourself, to really learn how to love yourself unconditionally, and to begin to work through the shame. So one of the best ways to do it, I think, is through community. You know, I say that there is no cure but community. And so start to share with your loved ones, what's really going on in your life. And I think that this is a really beautiful thing that you can do, especially to share these kinds of things with your friends. One of the things Dr. Northrup spoke about was we talked about the importance of being witnessed. And it could be as simple as this. If you have someone that you know loves and cares for you, if you are willing to be vulnerable and share a secret, maybe share something with them that you are so shameful of and you're so embarrassed by, to be able to open up to them and to share whatever that is, and to have them repeat back to you, I love you right there. I love you right there. And to be witnessed is one of the most powerful things. And I think that it's a huge step in this journey of forgiveness and in this journey of overcoming shame, because when we bring light to our shadows, what happens, ladies? The darkness, goes away. You light a candle in a pitch black area, that light dispels the darkness. So these things that are really controlling you in life and keeping you down, it's your shadow. It really is your shadow. So, sharing with someone that you really love and that that they love you no matter what, I think is a beautiful first step. And this is why within the community of women with herpes, it's one thing that I encourage women to do is share with, a best friend, someone that knows that's going to be there for you no matter what. Be mindful of who you choose to share your shame with. Not all people can hold that space of unconditional love, but it's beautiful, and getting that heavy burden off your heart. So I actually picked up Dr. Northrup's book, Making Life Easy, and she talks about 3 steps to overcoming shame. And the first one, as I said, is that to be witnessed by another. And when I said, I love you right there, that wasn't my work. That's actually Dr. Northrup's work, or at least somebody else that she has followed. And she said even just the witness part might be enough to shatter the shame. The example that she gave was a woman that her deepest, darkest secret was that she liked to watch porn. And she had never told anyone. And it sounded like it was maybe a workshop type of environment. And so the community, when she shared this deep, dark secret and the community said, I love you right there, she never again felt the need to go and watch porn. So this is just one example. And in our community, I watch it every day. Women who get the courage to share. And sometimes it might be just sharing in an anonymous platform like Pink Tent for women with herpes. And there are other forums out there. In fact, I know of one, I think it's called like Support Group or supportgroup.com. And they have support groups where, for about anything and everything, whether it be alcoholism or, anything that you would think would be shameful of. There's a place for you to have a voice. So find your voice. And this speaks to another chakra, which is your 5th chakra. That is the chakra that's related to your ability to communicate and your ability to find your voice again. So I do a lot of work with people. We do a lot of healing in my practice, and my practice is actually expanding quite a bit beyond. I started with working with women with herpes, and what we're finding is that herpes really is a magnifying glass to what was really occurring even prior to diagnosis. So if you had low self-esteem, or, you didn't take care of your body, that this virus does act like this magnifying glass to what was going on before that really needs to be healed. So as a coach, I get to work with women in the most vulnerable places, help them to overcome the shame. And really, it doesn't matter what the shame is, because we all have it. We all have some level of shame. So I hope that begins to answer a question that someone had written in. Katharina had written in for the original interview, and I didn't have a chance to really ask Dr. Northrup many things. But she wrote in and she said, I thought of a question for Dr. Northrup, and she said it relates to religious guilt. I know I mentioned during our call today that I'm a secretary for a Jewish synagogue, but what I forgot to mention is that I'm a Catholic who goes to church every weekend and who lives with Catholic guilt over my HSV-1 diagnosis, and I'd like to know how to overcome it. No one is telling me I did anything wrong. Rather, it's my own long-held beliefs that fuel some unresolved feelings of guilt, shame, and regret. So, Katharina, I'm here to tell you, you're not alone. Catholic guilt is a real thing for people, and so I would suggest sharing this with someone, as I said, who can hold that container and practice that one technique. Just ask this loved one, say, when I'm going to share something with you, it's a big secret for me, and I just want to get it off my chest, and I would like you to respond to me by saying, I love you right there. And I actually used this technique this week with a coaching client, and it was done over the phone. And by me saying this to her, we were working through some shame stuff, and she just started to cry. Hearing that, it allows the energy to come up and to move through the body. By the way, thank you for the hearts, ladies, and I appreciate that. And if you have any questions, I really love questions. So type the questions. I can actually see it. It's very cool. It's very cool, this platform. So yeah, I love you right there. Dr. Northrup also talked about mirror work, and this stems from a woman if you don't know her, you really need to know her, and it's Louise Hay. Unfortunately, we lost her. She's now deceased. Beautiful woman who started Hay House. She cured herself from, I want to say uterine cancer, but I'm not sure. Cervical cancer, not sure exactly what it was, but she did it through positive affirmations. And she went on to share her story and start a company. She wrote very many books, but back in the day, she worked with a community in the LA area, and she worked with men with AIDS. And this was back in the day where there wasn't any level of compassion for these men. And one of the things that she did for them is that she had them use affirmations. And what the mirror work was having them practice in the mirror one statement, just one statement. And the statement was, I love you. I love you. And Dr. Northrup says that after 20 days, these men would transform their relationships with themselves. Like they improve their self-confidence and self-love and self-esteem and compassion. Compassion is something that we all need to cultivate more of. We're here having this human experience, and there is no such thing as perfect, right? We are all, it's like this beautiful paradox. We are all divine and perfect, and we are deeply flawed. It's like this, we are both. We are all of it. And so this is yet another practice that after 20 days, really begin to own loving yourself. And you'll be able to see that sparkle in your eyes come out, and you'll start to see you. And it really is a beautiful practice. I've not done it for 20 days, but I challenge you to give it a go. I can tell you, I do practice saying in the mirror, I don't do it every day, but saying, I love you. And we all need to love ourselves first. Because if we don't love ourselves, how are we to expect the outside world to respond in such the loving way that you deserve? So the love comes from the inside out, not the outside in. And so rebuilding that self-esteem. And I've got to find this quote I highlighted that Dr. Northrup said. I've got my notes here. She says, this is great quote. We were talking about a self-love practice. We're about 32 minutes into the interview, and she was talking about an exercise to exercise your pelvic floor muscles. And for ladies, if you don't know what I'm talking about, i.e., this is the Kegel, like Kegel exercises would be a way to begin to reconnect to that first and second chakra, right? Like we get so disconnected as if our sexual bodies are something to be ashamed of, especially if there's sexual abuse in the past. You know, we disown this part of ourselves. So she was talking about, so anyway, Kegel, if you don't know what a Kegel is, it's the way to find these muscles in your body is if you are urinating and you stop the stream of urine, those are the muscles that you need to strengthen. They're also really important to keep strong for us to keep a healthy pelvic floor, especially after giving birth to the baby. So, and it also helps us to keep and allow sex to be enjoyable. So anyway, she was talking about the jade egg practice. And I have not done the jade egg practice, although have known about it. I've practiced the pelvic floor muscles, especially leading into delivery of my baby. So I am familiar with that. But think about it. That's like first and second chakra. We're talking about our sexual energy and our power as that goddess energy. And so here's the quote. Here's a quote, teasing you, but here's the quote. When you know how to own and operate your female pelvic anatomy, you are a goddess. I'll repeat that because you should write this one down. Okay. We need to learn how to work this body of ours. And so again, when you know how to own and operate your female pelvic anatomy, you are a goddess. All right. And don't do this to please your partner. This is done for you. You need to discover what feels good to you. Don't rely on your partner. And so she actually spent some time. Hello, Denise. Glad to have you. Hello, Mama. That's Cheryl. Cheryl's my mama, my number one, supporter. So anyway, would love to hear you guys ask questions. Give me the little hearts. This is all new for me. So anyway, what was I getting at? So yes, owning our anatomy. And I was shocked. Dr. Northrup shared with us that when she was writing one of her books, and it didn't sound like it was very long ago, she asked her assistant to go to a certain library, and it was like an Ivy League library. I want to say like Harvard, or I don't remember where it was, but the gentleman came back and said there was no anatomy, really good drawings of the clitoris. And Dr. Northrup was shocked. I mean, we're not talking about like decades ago. We're talking about very recently. So long story short, she found the right people so that she could have the anatomy drawn correctly. And if you don't know this, the male and female anatomy, when you go back in utero, before we develop into little boys or little girls, the erectile tissue is the same. In fact, the clitoris is really what it is and how it develops. It's like a little penis, all right? And so it has that level of excitability. This is how women get excited. And then she also spoke about the G-spot. And she was talking about, I loved it. She came out and she said, the ovaries are like our balls. Like, this is our power, women. So here's a woman who's a doctor, OBGYN, and she's teaching us. Like, let's go back to anatomy because they're not teaching it in medical school as much. It's like we have to learn our sexual anatomy, and we've got to take personal responsibility, which takes us back to the beginning of the call, which was my first question is how do we regain, our sexual how do we take responsibility for our sexual health? So learn your anatomy, ladies, and not just learn it from like a mental standpoint, like really learn it so that you can pleasure yourself. Okay, hello, Kim. Kim from California, woohoo! So this is a practice, and no one taught us this. In sex ed was all about, celibacy, and fear, right? They didn't really teach us our anatomy so that we could learn how to be in our power. So ladies, masturbation is nothing to be ashamed of. It's our anatomy. God gave us, God gave us these beautiful vaginas, and it's time we own them. We own them, because when a woman is in her essence and in her power, it is the most beautiful thing. It's like it attracts. Talked about going back to, remember we said sex and money and power in our second chakra. When we're connected to our sexual energy, ladies, we are powerful. We are so powerful, and we are able to manifest the life that we deserve and we desire. So getting back in touch with your female anatomy, or maybe you've never gotten in touch with it, or maybe you disconnected because of whether it's, maybe you had a hysterectomy, or maybe you were shamed by your genitals. I can always, it cracks me up when I think of my upbringing. My mother made it a point to make sure that we as young little girls felt really comfortable in our own bodies and to love our bodies, and that it was very natural to stand, there with mama, coming out of the shower or whatever, and to be naked and to, be comfortable. And I can remember, actually, I know this is a side note, but this goes back to like loving your body. Whatever body God gave you, you got to start loving it as it is. And then when you start loving it, you'll start to practice more loving behaviors. You'll eat better, you'll have better nutrition, find those sexual pleasure areas. So anyway, my mom, my sister, and I'll never forget, went to Aruba, and we would go, we'd sit in the sun and we'd play in the ocean. And back in the day, I used to love to windsurf, and so much fun. And at the end of the day, when it was like happy hour time, it's when my sister and I were like in our 20s, we would have get naked time. And get naked time was like, get those bikinis off, right? Let's shower, get the sand off. And there was no, it was like natural. It's like that goddess energy. We need to return to that. In fact, the name of my business, Pink Tent, came from the red tent, because I've always believed that our power lies in community and loving ourselves, putting aside all the superficial stuff, and let's really, let's reclaim our power. So yes, owning your anatomy, owning the user's guide, all right, is going to be really important. So I encourage you, if you have not learned your anatomy, learn where the G-spot is. In the interview, Dr. Northrup actually talked exactly where it is, about 32 minutes into it. And, and how to find it. You find it squatting, and you digitally, feel up, right up under the pelvic bone. And there's like this little spot. And that is the area that's highly sensitive. This is what helps you to orgasm. All right. You need to know this, and don't wait for your partner to find it for you, or, you need to know how to pleasure yourself. All right. She also talked about, she said, no vibrators, ladies. So that was new news to me. I actually have heard that before. She said it's too much stimulation, that it's mechanical. So that's what she said about that. She also said, in talking about shame, one of the ways to overcome it is humor, using humor. And she said, actually, comedy creates the elasticity of the brain like a 5-year-old. Did you hear that? So comedy creates the elasticity of the brain like a 5-year-old. So when we're able to actually make fun of ourselves, so let's say that you are a woman that like hates your body. You've never liked your body, and you've really become an expert, in hating your body. So what was recommended was actually almost make fun of it, like do mirror work. And it's like, man, you are the best. Like if anyone's going to shame their body, like you've really been the best. You have been the best at this. And what it does is, again, it brings that light to the shadow, and it dispels it. It weakens it. It begins to lose power. It's funny. As we're talking about power, I'm looking outside my window. It's a full moon tonight, ladies. It's a full moon. And so here we're gathering, talking about all this powerful stuff. put your intentions out into the universe, if you pair that with beginning to love yourself, watch out, ladies. Like, I can't wait to see what happens for you. So any questions you ladies might have? So far, we don't have any questions. We've got some comments. Keep it up. Say hello. Ask your questions. I'm going to go back to some questions that were asked prior to the interview that did not get answered. I wanted to make sure that, we answered some of these. There's a question if Sheila had asked, if both partners have herpes, can they reinfect each other? And the answer is no. Is that if a person has, and we have to be clear here, there are 2 strains of the HSV virus, herpes simplex virus. And so if you carry type 1 and your partner carries type 1, then your body makes antibodies for type 1. And so it can't be passed back and forth. Same thing if you have a person, if you have type 2 and they have type 2, you can't pass back and forth. Now, just like the common cold, if I were to have a herpes outbreak, I wouldn't be, intimate with my husband in that way. It's like a cold, but it's not coming from the standpoint of thinking that, I would be contagious at that time if the 2 parties have the same strain of the virus. So hopefully that answers that. And there was one other question about post-herpetic neuralgia. And the question is, and what that is, it's chronic nerve pain. We actually see this also. It's more common in people who have shingles, and it can be very painful. And basically, it's the nerves that become inflamed and cause pain. One of my favorite things actually to work with that is a product called Lauricidin. And let's go ahead. Let's make this a global conversation, because this conversation is for all women with all female oriented problems and challenges and illnesses and all of that stuff. And so Lauricidin, it's spelled Lauricidin, and you can go to lauricidin.com. And what it's awesome at doing is it really supports the nerves. It's made from coconut oil, but coconut oil alone won't do it. It's actually a part of coconut oil called monolaurin. And what I find with women that take this, if you're a woman that gets frequent yeast infections, we find, and whether that's vaginally or maybe some yeast on your skin or in your digestive system, Lauricidin is also great to begin to reestablish the digestive tract. And the reason being is because there's caprylic acid. And so anyway, that begins to help balance the environment, and it's great for the brain, it's great for nerves, and just overall, and it's great for immunity. So whether you have Lyme's disease or some of the chronic autoimmune diseases, Lauricidin does a really great job of helping to rebuild immunity. So that's my answer to post-herpetic analgin. Can you say the name again? Yes. Let me see, right on screen updates. Let me try something, ladies. I've never done this. I'm going to write something and see if you can see it. Lauricidin.com. And I'm going to say show. Let's see if you ladies can see that. There you go. That's it. Wow. And who said I couldn't do technology? All right. So please, yes, can you say the name again? There you go. Lauricidin.com. And so anyway, that is a supplement I personally take. It's also safe to give your kids. Don't take the full dose right out of the gate. When I give it to my daughter who's 7, and I give it to her, just overall immunity, I have her take a small amount. They're like these little pellets, and start slowly, especially if you have an autoimmune, any type of autoimmune stuff going on. This particular supplement is known to really start clearing the body. And so you don't want what's called a healing crisis, which is when the body starts to release toxins and it releases them too fast. So start slow. In fact, I tell people maybe like a quarter of these little cups, a little quarter scoop, and do that. Start out with like a quarter scoop, maybe 3 times a day. Do it for 3 days. Always do it with food, because it's a fat, and so you want to have food in your belly so you don't get an upset stomach. And if your body is able to tolerate full dose would be 1 scoop 3 times a day. And again, it's great with Lyme's disease, candida, viruses, bacteria. It's just a really great overall supplement that I do really like. So that brings me to another topic that Dr. Northrup was talking about. And she was talking about the biome. And I loved it because I've never heard someone say that. So when I talk about the biome, what that is, it's the environment inside the body. And this environment includes E. coli, it includes yeast, it includes, viruses. If you've, it basically, when you have a healthy environment, it's not that you don't have what I call the bad bugs. It's that the bad bugs begin to go into overgrowth and you don't have enough good bugs. And in essence, this is when you start to have problems. This is when you have illness. This is when you have an imbalance in the body. And so, she had talked about, if you want to hear her talk about it, it was around 25 minutes into the interview. And she said, welcome herpes into your biome. Or let's say you have Lyme's disease, welcome Burgdorferi, which is I think the Latin name for it. Welcome that, but don't allow it to get control over you. Don't let it take control of your body. So keep it contained. And what she was really speaking to is that when the body gets out of balance through diet and stress and poor nutrition and environmental factors, when the body gets out of balance, that biome or that environment on the inside of your body gets out of balance. And this is when you start to have problems. So she says that the herpes virus, she believes, or she said that it's actually part of a normal biome, which I'd never heard before. So I want to do a little more research on that. But she said, balance your biome. And one of the ways that we can do that is through probiotics. Probiotics are the good bugs. And there's a lot of great supplements on the market for probiotics. A couple brand names I like PB8 is a really good one. And then I also like Yarrow. Yarrow makes a really good one. When you're looking for a probiotic, probiotics are your good bugs. And there's a lot of research coming out, the importance of gut health. And if you follow like Dr. Hyman, for example, really speaking to the power of our immune system, actually a lot of it is in the gut. And when the gut gets out of balance, it's when you don't have enough of these good bugs, which is why we need to supplement with the good bugs. So anyway, Dr. Northrup talked about, it's called the U Biome Company. And what they're doing, it's a company that's testing the environment of the vaginal environment of women all around the world, okay? So again, it's not that these bugs and viruses and yeast and all these things that we think are the bad guy, they must play a part some way in our biology. And we don't quite totally understand it, but there is a place for them. We just want things to stay in balance, okay? Question was, do you recommend L-lysine? I do like L-lysine. L-lysine, for ladies who don't know, L-lysine is an amino acid, and we know that L-lysine helps to decrease the replication of the herpes virus. Now, when we're talking of the herpes virus, again, make this applicable to everyone. The herpes virus is implicated and is a family of viruses, including Epstein-Barr, mono, herpes simplex, varicella or chickenpox. So we're talking about any of these things. So, but when herpes is in the body, which once it's in there forever, supposedly, is that we start to see an imbalance of lysine and arginine. And they're like a married couple when it comes to amino acids. Lysine is really good for you to keep herpes from replicating, whereas arginine is the bad guy. Arginine is the amino acid that causes the virus to proliferate. In other words, rapidly grow. So you think of arginine as your food for herpes, which you don't want to give it food, and lysine is what keeps it to calm down. So here's what I know about L-lysine is it works really well for a lot of people. It tends to work a little bit better with the strain HSV1 than it does with HSV2. I like women to use it episodically. And what that means is that if you start to feel symptoms, then you start to take high dosage of lysine. You can take, they say about up to 9,000 milligrams in a given day. And so you take a couple thousand or 1,000 every couple of hours. All right. And generally that's enough to nip it in the bud. Okay. There are people that take it as a daily supplement, and that's fine, but I wouldn't do it more than like 4 or 5 months. I wouldn't have it be the supplement for the rest of your life because it has been implicated in heavy metal toxicity. So it's great, but I don't think it's the one thing to take for the rest of your life. So use it as needed or for a period of time. What I like people to do is find lysine in the foods that they eat. So increase your green veggies. All right, more veggies. I tell in my home, I'm the veggie police. And it's like more veggies, more veggies, more veggies. So lysine is found naturally in vegetables, in beans, in eggs, and also in dairy. I hesitate, I leave dairy last because there's so many people that their body is sensitive to dairy and dairy doesn't agree well with them. So that's generally my last place to find the lysine for people. I like them to find it in meats and veggies. Okay. So hope that was a long answer, but great question. It goes to show you, I love questions. I love interaction. So we talked about the mirror practice. So another thing that she talked about was the tapping. And if you don't know about tapping is another name for the emotional freedom technique, or EFT. It's been used by therapists for many years, and it's a way to really decrease stress and to break down those beliefs that we have in our mind that circle and circle and circle and circle that do not serve us. And so tapping is a great way to really honor the feelings that you're feeling and have a breakthrough. Okay. And so while I'm not an expert in this, I did want to take a moment to slow it down to let you know what she was doing and what the points are. And the good news is that there is a worldwide tapping summit going on right now. And it's over the course, I think it's all week. I'm not sure. But if you Google the tapping solution or the name Nick Ortner, they're teaching people how to do this. And it's free. And so you can jump on, you can learn how to do it. But here's the basics of it. Here are the points. Is you begin to tap. This is called the karate point. And actually, before you do that, you think about whatever thought is stressing you out. Okay. So maybe your thought is, I'm so ashamed of my, well, I mean, for many women in this community, it would be of my herpes, but for someone else, it might be, I'm so shameful of my emotional eating or my overeating. Let's go with that. So I'm so shameful of my overeating. And so you really would, so you start with, okay, when I think about that thought, I'm so shameful of my emotional eating. Think about on a scale from 1 to 10, where do you stand? Are you like really, it causes a full body tension when you think about how you're emotionally eating, or maybe you're binging on chocolate, right? So a 10 would be at the highest level, and a 1 would be meh, right? So before you do the tapping, see where your baseline is and identify it and feel the feelings. So again, I'm just coming up with a random example, but so let's say that I'm so ashamed of my eating ice cream. I actually had a woman that I worked with. That was her weakness, is the ice cream. And she was just eating a lot of ice cream at night. And every time she did, she would feel guilty, and it would just sabotage her self-esteem. Okay. So let's say, so you start with, even though, so this is how you start, even though I'm so ashamed of, and then fill in the blank for whatever you are ashamed of. Okay. and you follow up by saying, I love and appreciate myself anyway. So ladies, let's do it. Just pick something, all right? So I should probably do something that's relevant because I don't do, I'm not like crazy about, I love chocolate, but that's not something that's out of balance for me. Let's see, what could I work on? Oh, I am looking to bring on some new people to Pink Tent to hire, and it's stressful. So I'll do that one. That's simple. So even though I'm not really ashamed of it though. All right, we'll go back to the other one. I'll just say herpes because I have herpes and I'm not ashamed of it anymore, but let's do it. So even though I'm ashamed of myself of herpes, I love and appreciate myself anyway. So even though I'm ashamed of myself for having herpes, I love and appreciate myself anyway. And then from there, you go right up here, and you can point with any finger. So even though I'm ashamed of myself about herpes, I love and accept myself. So do it along with me, ladies. I wish I could see your live video, all right? And just keep on moving. So the next point is right by your eye. So, and this is where you start to actually start talking yourself through it. Like what's been going on in your mind. So it's like, you know, even though I have herpes, you know, I find myself thinking that I'm unlovable. But I can love and accept that part of me. And then we're going to move to under the eye. And even though, you know, herpes is a sexually transmitted disease, you know, there are a lot of people, a whole lot of people that have it. In fact, Dr. Kelly says in some strains up to 80 to 85% of people. And then, so just you're kind of like, it's kind of free flowing, like whatever comes around. And then we're doing the top of your lip. And I'm probably going to mess up my lipstick, but that's okay. So, you know, herpes is something that I'm tired of it taking over my life. I'm ready to heal this. And even though I have it, again, and then the next one's here, I can love myself unconditionally. And, you know, I was listening to Dr. Northrup, and she was saying, and then bring it up to your collarbone. You can actually do your whole hand, I've been told. And because I actually did a little bit of training before I came in here tonight. And do it right on your collarbone. You can do your whole hand. And, you know, as I was listening to that interview, they were talking about shame and how if you can overcome the shame and really learn to love yourself, then you could find some peace. And then you're going to do at the bra line, just right under your arm. So even though I have herpes, I think I could heal this. I think that I could overcome this. I think there's someone out there who would love me, okay? And then that's the last point. So that would be one cycle. And then take a deep breath. That felt pretty good, really good, all right? And then at this point, you would determine, okay, I was at a 5, and now I'm at a, say, like a 3, okay? And then you would do that whole cycle again. And just talk yourself through it. So, you know, and begin to bring kind of the energy up into a positive conversation. You know, like I can open up my perspective. I could maybe share this with somebody. You know, maybe God has a plan for me. Maybe there's someone out there that has this too, or can't wait to be with me. So you're going to start kind of from this, what I call like the negative Nelly space, or the drama queen space of like all that negative stuff that you tell yourself. And I say drama queen, it's not necessarily drama queen. It's just like you really believe all this negative stuff. And as you tap, what you're going to notice is stuff comes out of your mouth. You can't even believe it because you're getting into the subconscious. And what these points are actually meridian points. They're meridian points. So it's almost like, it almost has like a piece of acupuncture in it, you know? And so you go through that whole cycle that I just taught you, and then you end. You end by tapping the top of your head, all right? So you might end with something like, my sexuality is beautiful, and I reclaim this for me. My sexuality is beautiful, and I reclaim this for me. And then you're done. And so that's the gist of it. I'm not an expert, but I wanted to take it and slow it down because it was just done so fast. She had so much to share that I wanted you to be able to share in that tonight and practice this. And I said, you can use this for anything. And I have heard so many things be cleared, you know, by this tapping. It's pretty amazing. So use that practice. Use that practice. All right, ladies, if you have any more questions, I am here to ask them or answer them. We talked about the mirror practice. We talked about I love you right there. Like that's something you can start tonight, you know, and I really encourage people to journal and journal your experience. In fact, there's a woman by the name of, I think it's Julia Cameron, and she wrote a book called The Artist's Way. And I love to share this with women because it's very feminine way of processing emotions and thoughts and feelings. And so what it is, you do something called the morning pages. And I actually remember I was introduced to this really long time ago. And I never really considered myself an artist in my younger years because in my mind, I thought that it was, you know, could I draw? And I still to this day, my 7-year-old draws better than I am. I draw stick figures. So anyway, I now do own that place of artistry. I just do it differently. I do it through photography and through other mediums. But here's what you do is first thing in the morning, you get up and you get a journal and just freely write. Pick a topic, whatever the topic is. And I love for women to start to really work on whatever it is that you're shameful of. Like if you think you have a big butt, you know, like write about the feelings about it, like so that you can really just get it out on paper. And what that will do is it helps so that your mind just doesn't keep spinning. Like actually having it on paper allows you to begin to process it. And just set a timer, even if it's for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. You know, practice compassion, practice non-judgment. So this would be an actually great first step if you're not ready to share your story with whatever it is that you're shameful about with another person yet. This is a great baby step. So just start in the morning, every morning, just write what's on your mind. And then you're going to start to see healing take place. And if you pair that with looking in the mirror every day, you know, I love you or I love you right there, give it 20 days. Let us know what happens for you. I'm actually teaching a course right now for the ladies in my community at Pink Tent. And I see some of you are on tonight. We really, we're doing a self-love in 90 days. And I'm having so much fun teaching this course because I'm bringing in so many different ways and strategies to learn how to love ourselves more. And that's something every woman can learn how to do and do in a way that's very honoring. I think self-care is related to self-love. And when we really can care for ourselves, and the metaphor that I use for women, especially if they're mothers, I say, you know, if you were to love yourself the way you love your children, you would be in a totally different place. You know, you would feel whole again. You would feel complete. You would reconnect to your power. So start treating you like you do those you love. And if you can do that, it's a game changer. It really is a game changer. So, hello, Denise. Your network failed. That's okay. This is recorded, so it's going to pop up. And I have really enjoyed being with you ladies tonight. And this is something I want to start doing more regularly so that I can get great content out there for you. And I love the comments and I love the engagement. So that helps me to help you. So really, I think, you know, tonight, as I summarize, I think, wow, what's the most important message here tonight? And I really think the most important message is to be compassionate, learn how to love yourself unconditionally, and, you know, get the owner's manual out. Let's turn you on. Let's turn you on. Reclaim your power, and be the best version of you. Be that vibrant person that you know you can be. She's in there. Let her shine. So with that, good night. And until next time, we'll go ahead and we'll put another one of these out there. So signing off, Dr. Kelly Martin Schuh, and go to pinktent.com if you are a woman with herpes. And as I said, we are expanding and working with all kinds of women and helping them to transform their lives. So reach out to me. And I look forward to our next conversation. Good night.